The Claiming of Grimmauld Place by bixgirl1. Chapter 4, Part 3 of Discovery and... Harry surveyed the backless sofa Draco put in the place where his couch had been.
"People aren't going to sit here,"
he said.
"They will if it's the only seating available."
Draco said with a small huff.
"It's a Regency sofa. I don't care what kind of sofa it thinks it is. I'm not going to sit here,"
Harry said.
"You can't lean against it. It doesn't look useful at all." "You'll need to learn to control your posture at some point, Harry."
Draco sniffed, then shrugged. He flicked his wand until the stool, sofa, tiny bat thing skidded lightly across the room, settling against the empty wall beside the fireplace.
"Better." "I'll think about it," Harry chuckled. "I don't even know why it matters how the place looks."
"Oh, it does."
"Of course it does,"
Draco said in an indulgent way.
"You want it to look nice now that it cares what you think. It's your home."
Harry nodded, considering that. Since the door had revealed itself to him, everything had felt different. More accommodating. Warmer. Nicer. The room began to open up, revealing details that never shone before, like the crown molding around the ceilings and floorboards. The house allowed Harry to spell off the disturbing wallpaper. Even the spiderwebs had been removed. Everything looked bright and clean and cheerful in the way Harry had always thought it could look, before the house had started resisting him. He said as much.
"Yes," Draco agreed thoughtfully. "The work's not done, though." "You don't think I'll get the key before we paint the walls and such?"
Harry asked. He looked at a polished oak secretary desk.
"This should go in the den,"
he decided.
"The library,"
Draco said.
"It's an accent piece."
He started transfiguring the drapes into different styles and colors.
"The den," Harry insisted. "I go in there more often and I like it. I can use it for things."
Draco glanced at him, the one side of his mouth curved up.
"You're enjoying this?" "I'm not enjoying it,"
Harry said, his face warming. His parlor was mostly barren. They'd got rid of a great deal of the furniture that had been bought around the 60s, which Draco assured him hadn't been the finest time in the wizarding design for furniture, and thank goodness there was an explanation for its ugliness, and had so far only filled the dining room, kitchen, and Harry's bedroom with refurbished items from the attic.
"It helps that you're doing it with me,"
he admitted after a moment.
"Part of the bargain,"
Draco said. His face flicked as though he smelled a bad odor.
"Speaking of which..."
Harry left off examining the landscape painting they'd found hidden, wrapped in a dusty canvas, in one corner of the attic. Only one of them was wizarding art, depicted a bright field of multicolored poppies that waved as though from a breeze. The rest were muggle and unmoving, which was probably why they had been secreted away, but they were beautiful nonetheless, portraying the English countryside in different seasons and small, vine-covered cottages.
"What about it?"
Draco asked.
"Well, I thought about that bit, about the papers,"
Harry said cautiously. Draco's eyes caught his before swerving away.
"What of it? People know I live here,"
he said, smirking.
"I'm photographed every day now. There wasn't even a small mention of me the other day that didn't refer to the Death Eater thing. I'd say that's progress." "The Death Eater thing?"
Harry echoed wryly. Draco rolled his eyes.
"It is, I suppose. Anyhow, I was thinking, if you wanted, we could be seen together. Shopping for Pansy or out to dinner or something."
Inexplicably, Draco frowned at him.
"That wasn't part of the agreement,"
he said, low and serious. Took a deep breath and summoned a pair of gold candelabras with tiny naked toddlers at the base.
"I already said no to those, but no,"
Harry said with emphasis. Draco glared at him half-heartedly, then sent them back to the hallway.
"And who cares?" "I care,"
Draco said. Surprised, Harry looked at him.
Isn't that partly... I can do it on my own, Potter,
Draco said.
I don't need you escorting me places to show the world I'm worthy of a second chance.
He lies. He needs. Came a small, sibilant whisper from the house. Harry skirted around Frank, who was lounging in the middle of the bare floor, and stroked a hand over the mental in thanks on his way to Draco. He touched the back of Draco's neck. It was tense under Harry's hand.
I know.
Harry rubbed his fingers into the tight muscles, and Draco hedged, allowing himself to be pulled closer.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Although, you are worthy of a second chance. You're just saying that because you want to get over me again,
Draco said, but his gaze was smoky and encouraging and sly. Harry laughed quietly, leaning in to kiss Draco's throat. He dragged his tongue against the curve of it.
I'm not,
Harry said, hesitated for a second.
I'd like to do whatever might make it easier for you to be here. Not your place,
Draco said lightly after a momentary pause, tilting his chin back to allow Harry to lick over his clavicle.
And are you saying you don't want to fuck me right now?
No, Harry said, chuckling quietly.
You're right ass, but my cock is pretty hard.
Draco snorted, but his hands strayed to Harry's flies, began to undo them nimbly, then unceremoniously stuffed one hand into Harry's pants.
That's it,
he murmured, using one hand to bear Harry down to his thighs. Harry's hips jerked into Draco's loosely curled hand. He tucked Draco's trousers open, then yanked them down around his hips. Draco hissed a little as the waistband of his pants caught on his lengthening prig, but he arched into Harry nonetheless, breath hot and moist against Harry's shoulder as he mouthed over it through Harry's t-shirt. Harry reached between them, circling their cocks in one hand and stroking over them tight, but after a moment, Draco knocked his hand away and twisted around, canting his arse against Harry's cock. He reached back up and grasped Harry's hip, pulling him flush. Harry let his eyes flutter close, his body taking up the instinctive rot.
Come on,
Draco said after a moment, voice low and promising. Harry nodded. His forehead had fallen to the bend of Draco's neck. He felt Draco's leave as they stumbled, still pressed together. He whined when Draco drew away, but Draco cast a hungry look over his shoulder and bent over the curving arm of the Regency sofa. His knees were bent, legs pressed together, his pants and trousers sagged between his thighs. He looked awkward and uncomfortable, and so fucking hot Harry thought he might die. Harry stepped in behind him, one hand palming the swell of his arse. Draco made a little encouraging sound.
Lube,
Harry said, panting, even as he pressed his cock into the crevice between Draco's buttocks.
Fucking conjure some.
Draco snarled, snaking one hand beneath him. His shoulder began to work quickly, and Harry gave a helpless thrust. They stood together like that until their shuddering eased, and then Harry pried himself away. He grimaced, casting a quick cleaning charm over each of them when Draco shot him an expectant arched eyebrow. They restored their clothes and sat down heavily on the sofa, leaning against the wall behind them. To Harry's surprise, it didn't collapse at their combined weight. Even the cushions felt like new, plump, and soft between them.
Okay,
Harry said, still feeling slightly unsteady. He dropped a hand to Draco's thigh and stroked it through the wool of his trousers. Draco shot him a lazy smile.
Okay, we'll keep the sofa. The house will like it,
Draco said indulgently, jumping a little when Creature entered the room with an armful of odd little golden trinkets.
The house is liking the attentions,
Creature grumbled. He glared a little at Draco, and Draco slanted Harry a confused glance. Harry shrugged as Creature continued.
It is responding to Master Harry.
Of course it is,
Draco said, frowning.
It wants Master Harry to be happy.
Creature? Harry watched Creature compare Trinket with his arms with Harry's newly refinished mentor. stroked his hand against the wood, and transfigured the gold cup he was holding into a snarling lion. Creature shook his head.
Are you upset with Draco about something? Master Draco is making Master Harry happy,
Creature said simply. Harry flushed when Draco blinked at him with interest.
Well, yeah.
The house is wanting to make Master Harry happy.
It is,
he said, baffled. Draco copied Harry's shrug from a moment before when Harry looked at him and mouthed, "What?" Creature sniffed, transfiguring the pieces again, this time into a stack. He nodded approvingly.
Master Harry is needing more than Master Draco can give him.
Hey,
Harry said when Draco's mouth dropped open. Creature looked over guiltily. He placed the tiny golden duck statue on the mantel.
For Grimmauld Place, Creature's meaning.
Creature?
Harry said, irritated.
If you're not going to tell me, would you kindly shut up about it?
Ears drooping, Creature gave a sour sigh and nodded shortly. He disapparated, and Harry turned to Draco, still sitting in stunned silence.
What do you think he meant?
I've no idea, Draco said, shrugging. He didn't seem to be bothered, and Harry almost didn't continue, except,
I like what you give me,
Harry said under his breath. Draco darted him a glance. He looked strangely embarrassed.
Yes, well, may as well take advantage while I'm here,
he said, voice coming out stilted.
Right,
Harry said dully, looking around the house they were making into a home together.
While you're here.
I just don't understand it, Hermione said for the third time. Draco would be much better at this. He's your boyfriend, right? Shouldn't he be doing this with you? Harry sighed, caught a hand to drag her with him as they wound around a counter display, then gave it a squeeze before releasing it.
He's busy,
Harry said, feeling a tension headache begin to form behind his eyes. Dipped his fingers under his glasses to press them against his eyelids.
And I'm not sure what he is. You didn't have to come.
You asked for my help, she said simply. She paused at a rack of tweeted jackets, fingering the material lightly. She twitched a tag up, her face going chalky as she read the price.
Jenny and Luna were busy too, Harry said.
He probably could have done it on his own, but after the incident a few weeks prior in the attic, Pansy had been remarkably cool towards him whenever she'd visited Draco, and he felt bad. He wanted to make a better impression. Only his damned, possible boyfriend kept finding reasons not to come with him. In fact, he realized as he watched Hermione bite her lip, he and Draco had never left Grimmauld Place together. Not even once. Harry, you don't really spend this much on gifts, Hermione said, quietly horrified. Hands straight up to touch the lustrous pulse studs in her ears that he'd gotten her for her last birthday.
Of course not,
he lied.
But I could if I wanted, and I promised her. I owe her one, and it's a birthday anyhow.
It's 7 months away, Hermione mumbled. She gave him a doubtful look, still rubbing her earrings. Harry?
I got those at a normal jewelry store, Harry said. Not at Selfridge's, all right?
He didn't think she needed to know how much they cost, but reassurance seemed to ease her mind. Well, she said, finally lowering her hand, you've already gotten her some shoes and a personalized set of daydreams, which I happen to know are very expensive.
George gave me a deal,
Harry defended. Don't you think clothing and jewellery are a bit intimate for someone you barely like? Hermione continued, undeterred. She paused, brows furrowing. And I'm relatively sure when you're sleeping with someone exclusively, they're your boyfriend.
We haven't defined things,
Harry said shortly. You mean he hasn't?
He won't let me,
Harry said, quiet and resentful. Hermione's brow knitted. She touched his hand, and Harry drew away, thinking.
He doesn't want to associate with me, maybe. I'm not sure. And he keeps insisting that he's going somewhere, but won't say where.
He's leaving.
And I don't hate Pansy.
Harry said, ignoring her last. He slanted a look at her.
Did you know how hard her family was hit financially?
Well, not specifics, Hermione said, eyeing a long pink summery dress for a moment. Didn't seem like the thing she normally wore. It had tiny flowers on it and straps instead of sleeves. But he could picture her fluffy hair draped over her bare shoulders, and one would probably lose his mind. Harry made a mental note for September. Hermione looked away from the dress and caught his gaze. But yes, it was in the papers the year after the battle. Her father fled out of the country like Draco's.
Draco's parents live in France.
Harry dropped the flouncy hem of a glittering black shirt.
They weren't at risk of being arrested.
No, but they had no prospects, I guess, Hermione said, frowning. And the manor had been taken. You really haven't discussed this with Draco. Harry flushed, biting his lip.
We talk about a lot of things,
he said, feeling defensive and uncomfortable. That was true. Amidst the sex and the arguing that always eventually led to sex, they would talk about all sorts of things. Sports and their friends, and even little about their own history. Draco led him down to the basement as he'd work on potions, and had strong opinions on Harry's training as a professor and his teaching plan. Once, Harry had even woken up from a bad dream in Draco's arms. Draco just didn't talk to him about this. I see, Hermione said. She bit her lip and fell silent, then took a deep breath and forced a smile. So, what do you want to get here?
I don't know,
Harry said, latching onto the topic change.
What do you think she'd look good in?
It's horribly sexist that you brought me. Hermione's smile was fond for all the censor in her tone. Rather than Ron.
Ron would have suggested a Cannons t-shirt, and you know it.
Harry mumbled, inspecting another skirt. Leather this time. He looked at it thoughtfully. Well, why do they have to be so? Hermione pursed her lips, considering. You never get generic gifts. Everything always seems just right.
Better to spend too much time on a gift than have someone feel like you don't care about them,
Harry said. This skirt was £600, and he tried to work out the exchange rate and took galleons in his head. Oh, Harry, Hermione said softly. He looked at her and smiled.
It's been a long time since toothpicks,
he assured her.
It's just a thing I like to do.
She touched her earlobe again, then burst forward to give him a swift hug. Harry patted her back affectionately, pretending not to notice that her eyes were glistening when she pulled away. Then you should, she said, clearing her throat. I've not been much help, have I? I'll help now. I'm sorry. That skirt would look great on her.
Oh, I think I'm getting it,
Harry decided, lifting the hanger.
What size do you think she?
He broke off, going still. Hermione touched his sleeve, but Harry couldn't make himself look at her. After a moment, he felt her shift, and he knew the exact moment she saw Draco bending low to offer a lounging customer a porcelain saucer and a teacup. The navy robes he'd left the house in hours earlier were nowhere to be seen. Instead, he was wearing a sharp three-piece charcoal suit. He flashed a smile at the customer, then unfolded his long body from its modified bow and drew himself up, freezing as he spotted Harry. Oh, Hermione said. To be continued. We're now a little more than halfway through the story, and if you liked it, please consider subscribing to my channel. It would really help me out. It shows me that you enjoy what I'm doing, and the bonus is you will always stay up to date on the things that come next. I have a lot of great things planned. I have a great Drarry that's coming next, and I have some really nice spooky things for October, and in this way you wouldn't miss anything, and it would just mean a lot to me. As always, if you would like to stay up to date, you can also follow me on Spotify or on AO3, and I hope to see you back here soon.